I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're talking about peacefully parenting adult children. It's a powerful book written by Carlson. It is a must-read for navigating the challenges and joys of parenting grown kids. In this insightful guide, it offers strategies for maintaining strong, supportive relationships with your adult children while setting healthy boundaries. Karen shares her wisdom as a mother and wellness expert, guiding parents toward a thriving family dynamic filled with mutual respect and growth. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Karen, thank you so much for joining me here today on the Spotlight Network.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you on the show. Anybody who has adult children can tell you from time to time, and sometimes more frequently than not, there are tough currents when dealing with adult kids. What was your motivation of writing the book?
My motivation really was from my experience, but it wasn't about making it a memoir. It was really about, I've been a massage therapist for 25 years, so I've, listened to a lot of stories and interacted with a lot of people in their life circumstances, as well as the fact that I have three grown sons. And it really is about helping people maybe shift their perspective and shift the way that they're approaching things, not really with advice, but suggestions that they might incorporate into their lives and into their relationships so that it doesn't become a war of wills. It isn't about a winner takes all. It's about learning how to ebb and flow in that relationship. And that really was my motivation, was to help people have more peaceful and happy relationships in their family unit.
Tough for parents because we never stop thinking of our babies as babies on one level. I mean, that may be 35 years old, but that's still your little baby there. And that's part of the problem. And then nowadays also, it's unclear as to when adulthood starts. I mean, it used to
True.
be 18, or probably was 16 or 15 at one point, but now it's 18, then 21, and then after college, and then a few years after college, and now they're on your health insurance until they're 27 years old. So when do you think it's time for your little baby, girl or boy, to stand on his or her own 2 feet?
Well, it just like anything else in life, it's not black and white. There's no answer for everyone that fits. Every family dynamic is different. Every set of, family background and family experience from both father and mother. So that, compounds it even more. And your own individual sons and daughters and what, their needs are and what their experiences are. So there isn't a number that you can dictate and say, at this point in time, they are an adult. Legally, you might say 21, but 18 also, there's different things that fall into place
Sure. And
during
some
those
kids launch
benchmarks.
right away at 21. You don't have to worry about them again. They're on their own. They're self-sufficient. They're making money. They get into a relationship right away and everything's smooth. But other kids, it's a little more rocky. They're coming
Mhm.
home. They might live with you after they graduated school. They might want money from you. They might not be working as hard as you think they should. So in that situation where somebody returns to the nest, is seeking some money, and looking like they need some help in guiding their life, what would your suggestion be in so far as setting boundaries and helping them thrive while not compromising your own living situation?
I think the most important thing is to be as clear as possible, to engage in a conversation in a calm setting where people aren't kind of ramped up and getting triggered by things, but to be clear about the expectations from the parents' point of view. The funds, the money that they're borrowing to their children, if they expect it to be paid back, it's like having a loan. There's a responsibility there that I think shouldn't be shirked. And it's, even if they're adults, they need to learn responsibility for that. So I think being clear, for example, my parents, I have 5 brothers, and they were more than willing to help us out if we needed help, but they wrote a note and you signed a note. They didn't charge us interest or anything, but there was something documenting that we have borrowed you this money and the expectation is that you're going to pay it back. So I think being clear about that and them understanding that that you shouldn't have to be chasing after them and say, oh, well, however the repayment agreement is or something, that you're not chasing after them, but they learn and assume that responsibility, as well as you not giving freely, but giving it without hanging it over them in a burdensome way.
Sounds great. I think we should get back to those old values of, you've got to earn it. This is a loan. It's not given to you. It's expected to be paid back. And you're still doing your parental role then. You're teaching children that responsibility and the rights that come with the responsibility.
Right.
Some people have another issue, which is the kids just cutting them off and not having much to do with them, and which is extremely painful for parents. Any advice in that painful situation?
The book has a chapter on estrangement, but it's funny you bring that up. I was just speaking with somebody yesterday, and they were trying to remember there's a new phrase, I guess, that is being used, and it is going no contact. And they come up with phrases and come up with buzzwords,
Crazy.
things like that
They're trying to normalize
to
being
name things.
SOB. Yeah.
Right, to
Yeah.
name things, so everybody kind of knows what you're talking about if you say going no contact.
Yeah.
Once again, I think there is, hopefully before it gets to that point where they're totally cutting you off, you have an opportunity to have some conversation. I think there's also a way with the younger generation, they communicate differently. And communication really is a theme throughout the whole book, whether it's boundaries or financial or estrangement or addiction or whatever that might be. Communication really is the thread that goes through the whole book. But maybe it's sending them a text message and expressing, I love you, or something simple that doesn't necessarily require a response, but just letting them know that they are loved and they are part of your life, and you don't want to see that fall away. You don't want to lose the connection, acknowledging that it's different, and the fact that other significant others come into the picture. And of course, they have their background and their baggage and their, all of their things that they bring with it, how that influences your son or your daughter in how they're making decisions and how they're interacting and their relationship with you, and how that changes, because we know that it will change. The only thing we can be certain of is change in this life. And so not being resistant to change and not expecting that things won't change, because they're going to, they will. And in some ways they should, as they mature, as they build and grow those relationships with significant others, there should be change. So not to be afraid of that. But there are times when, despite your best efforts, they have just chosen that they're not going to communicate with you. And you can still pursue and continue to send a message, send an email, leave a voicemail when it's their birthday or something. But you have to preserve your own well-being. You can't forego everything and make your life and yourself miserable because you don't have that one piece. You may have other children, maybe you don't, but you have other people in your life. So it's easier said than done. It is not an easy thing, but it's finding that balance between having healthy communication and being desperate and coming from a desperate point of view.
think you hit that right on the head. You nailed it for sure. Very, very true. All relationships are about communication, subtly letting your children know that you still love them, you care if they've cut you off. Addressing it proactively before it escalates is a great thing to do if possible. So those three steps, I think, are the only steps really a parent can do in that painful situation. Let's give the folks at home an overview of what they'll find in your book once they crack open the covers.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
The book really touches on several different benchmarks, I guess I would say, in the journey. It starts with the empty nest. So when they first move out, or when they first, get into a relationship, whatever that might be, and they start stepping away from living at home, being at home, and how that affects us as parents and how we adapt to that, how we maybe fill some of that time with a hobby that we have abandoned, or picking up a new hobby, or being in different social circles, or whatever that might be. It moves into boundaries, setting boundaries, declaring boundaries, understanding boundaries. It talks about kind of the generational gap. So as I mentioned earlier, they communicate differently. They don't necessarily pick up the phone and have a phone conversation with you. And with our society being as mobile as it is, children don't live close to parents a lot of times. I have 3 sons that are spread far and wide. So you don't have that face-to-face opportunity. So it's learning how they communicate and understanding that, and working together to make that communication happen. It touches on being a helicopter parent or not being a helicopter parent. It talks about boomerang children that, go and, come back home, and sometimes more than once. They come back home more than once. They go out and, get in a relationship, move in with somebody, it doesn't work, they come back home. They go out, they get a job, maybe they lose their job, or they're in between jobs and they come back home. There's a lot of different scenarios where that is a common occurrence for them to, bounce back and forth. It really talks about kind of in-law, the adjustment to in-law when our sons and daughters, get into a permanent relationship, a committed relationship, and becoming in-laws. That is a whole very interesting dynamic, as I mentioned earlier, because their significant other brings with them all of their baggage and all of their wounds and all of their scars and all of the things. And so learning how that person is now having much more influence on your son and daughter than you are, and being able to relinquish some of that and respect it and honor that in the way that they may do it. We may not agree. We don't have to agree. And not giving unsolicited advice. It isn't about always that I've got the answers and I know how you should be doing this or saying this. And then when you get into grandparenting, well, then we've now added a whole nother generation and another layer to those relationships. So that significant other has their background of, what kind of discipline, what kind of rules, what kind of things happened in their household growing up, whatever that family dynamic might have been. And also how they have chosen that they want to raise their children. I was just this past weekend, I had a granddaughter that got married. And I was having a conversation with my very much younger granddaughter, and she was asking about, did you ever spank daddy? And my oldest son was there, and he was like, oh yeah, and it's understanding that it's different. Things are different. People behave differently. People raise their children differently. So grandparenting is a joyful time. There's a lot of people I know that say, wish I could have jumped right to the grandparenting and gotten through that parenting, or skipped over that parenting. Doesn't work that way. So there are a lot of topics. And as I said, communication really is the thread that binds them all together, because it's your body language. It isn't just the words you speak. It's your body language. It's the look on your face when you raise your eyebrows or you tisk something. There are so many ways that we communicate with and without words. So understanding that, and once again, understanding some of the generational differences is really important. So those are just some of the things that really are touched on in the book.
Well, that was vast in scope. You really have thought this out so well. And I can't help but agree with almost everything or everything you said. It all makes sense. It's all logical. You've obviously taken the time, thought this through, talked to a lot of people, like you said, have your own field experience by having kids. And it's great. The name of the book is Peacefully Parenting Adult Children. It is a must read for navigating the challenges and joys of parenting grown kids. It is an insightful guide that offers strategies for maintaining strong, supportive relationships with your adult children while setting healthy boundaries. Everything you ever wanted to know about being a parent to an adult child, but were afraid to ask, it's in this book. Really great. Karen, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
The one thing that I'll add is the most important piece for that title of that book for me was peacefully. It's peacefully parenting adult children. So, my wish is always that peace surround parents and children and their relationships and all of the dynamics that happen in that relationship. And one other thing that I'm very excited about is that last night I got this brainstorm and decided to create something very cool, just for your audience. So I stayed up late and I put together a page on my website that they can get the free book plus shipping.
Wonderful.
So I will share the link with you, and you can put it in the show notes or whatever, so people can, but it's at my website, which is Be Well and Renew, and then / free book plus shipping, all spelled out.
Oh, great. Well, we will definitely put that link underneath this interview.
Great.
So
I'm so
absolutely have the
excited.
folks at Atticus send us that. So we're looking forward to having that. And thank you so much for that wonderful offer. Folks, you heard that. You go to Karen's website, you can get this book for free, and it is invaluable. If you have adult children, just like the little ones, they don't come with an instruction manual, except now you can get one from Karen. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford. Thank you so much for joining me today, Karen.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed it, Logan.
I'm glad you did. I enjoyed talking to you as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.